The following is a presentation of the Broadband universe, brought to you in part by Vitruvi, the end-to-end GIS-based construction management platform that connects asset owners, operators, general contractors, and subcontractors for unmatched project control and collaboration. Manage every aspect of your telecommunications or utility infrastructure construction program with Vitruvi. Build faster, reduce costs, improve quality. Book your demo today on vitruvisoftware.com to see how we can help you build at scale. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broadband Universe podcast. I'm Craig Corbin, and it is a pleasure to welcome my guest today, Kim Mckinley, Deputy Director and Chief Marketing Officer for UTOPIA Fiber. Kim, welcome to the Broadband Universe.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be talking about what's going on with UTOPIA today.
It is phenomenal, and it seems as though there is constantly something in the news about a new city that is coming on board and being a part of the UTOPIA Fiber family. And for those that might not be aware, I know that we've got the primary focus today are some phenomenal results from an annual customer satisfaction survey. And just in taking a look at the scoreboard, I'm really impressed with those numbers, and I can't wait to dig into that. But just to bring everyone up to date on what the latest is from UTOPIA, take the floor.
You know, I think we've been a little slow. We're like just sitting around and twiddling our thumbs there at UTOPIA Fiber. But in reality, we are excited that even today, this is the first time I've announced it, that there will be the 21st city in Utah with fiber to the home to it, which will be West Haven. Utah has signed an agreement with UTOPIA Fiber, which is a city of about 20,000 northwest of Salt Lake City. So we're excited that it's the 21st city with fiber to the home in Utah alone. We're offering business class services in 50 plus Utah cities, and we are the operational partner for Idaho Falls Fiber, Yellowstone Fiber up in Montana, which I think it's good to note that in Yellowstone Fiber, we closed on that bond deal they closed on that bond deal in January of 2022, and their first customers came up in October of 2020.
Staggering.
Yes.
Absolutely staggering. And that is a great example, though, of how it can be done, done well and done quickly. And the beauty of it all is the consumer wins in that equation.
And I think and I would just like to note that I hear all in this space that people don't know how to get the financing or they don't know how to do this. The Yellowstone Fiber deal is actually a 501c3 up there, and how they pivoted to say we're going to make this work and use creative approaches. In this space, it's an exciting time, and there's a lot of people who are digging in to figure out a way.
You know, the number you just mentioned a moment ago, now more than 50 cities that are part of the UTOPIA family, that is phenomenal growth over a relatively short period of time. To what do you credit that pace of growth?
I credit to the expertise and the knowledge of what fiber is. I think that UTOPIA Fiber has been around we're over 20 years, and when this concept really started in 2002 is when the concept started. So to think that this concept started in 2002 before you had anything that we have today is just unheard of, and it baffles me when I really think about it. But I think it's a lot of expertise and a lot of people who believe at UTOPIA Fiber that this is not just a job, this is a passion for what we do.
Right.
And I think that's what is the key. A lot of people are out there trying to build fiber networks, but if you're not willing to give your heart and soul to it, it might not happen.
Well, I think you are the prime example of one who brings that passion each and every day, constantly. You're the ultimate road warrior. I think you're back after a week and a half on the road, but that's what it takes in this day and age, given the opportunities that exist. And I think you probably share the thought that we are in the golden age of opportunity within this industry, and it's obvious that the UTOPIA message has been received well by those 50-plus municipalities, and such an interesting, again, I am constantly amazed at the speed with which new projects are coming on. And, what you talked about with respect to the Yellowstone project was just mind-boggling. I had the chance to visit with the gentleman that runs that operation.
Greg.
And, just Mr. Metzger, phenomenal. Another guy that has a passion for bringing service to the local community. But again, phenomenal example of how it can be done quickly, efficiently, and again, the consumers win. And when we talk about the customers, obviously that has always been front and center with the Utopia mindset, and how you approach service to the communities that you serve. And I'm curious, with respect to knowing that you do an annual customer satisfaction survey. When did that start? How did that all come about?
That's Craig. You're going to put me on the spot here. I think it started about probably 6 years ago, maybe
Okay.
7. I've been here at Utopia too long, and the years keep ticking by. And I'm not getting any older, Craig, as you can see. But I mean, the years keep ticking by. But that we started doing it because we wanted to hear really what our customers had to say. And it's a little scary when you put out a survey to all of your customer base, because you're putting your heart and your soul into what these projects, and then you're just like, uh-oh, when you're watching them come back. And every year since we've started doing this, we've only seen the numbers increase. We've only seen the Net Promoter Score go up. When we started this, whenever that was, 7 years ago, let's say, our Net Promoter Score was 54. And at that time, everybody's like, that's a remarkable Net Promoter Score. Huge in this industry. Most big telcos have a Net Promoter Score of negative something. And we were coming out with that. And then every year it's gone up. And every year my anxiety when that survey goes out, my anxiety goes up too. Because you don't know. We're doing the best we can. But to see that this year in 2022, our Net Promoter Score was 64. And
Wow.
we're just seeing that grow from 63 last year. It's remarkable. And it just shows that it is embedded in the culture at Utopia Fiber. Embedded in everything we do is customer-centric, customer-first mentality.
And obviously that is shown in these results that we'll dive into here in just a moment. I'm curious, when we look at the metrics that make up that Net Promoter Score, how is that calculated? What are the factors that are considered with that?
So with a Net Promoter Score, we ask this question, or a third party asks this question. How likely are you to recommend this service to a friend or family member? What we call the promoters are the people who put 9 or 10. The detractors are anybody who puts 6 or less. And the neutrals are 7 or 8. So you take the promoters and you subtract the detractors to get your Net Promoter Score. And the neutrals don't get to say anything, basically. They don't get to be part of the equation. But
And that's a realistic number. Yeah.
And it's a realistic number, but it shows that, you're always going to have people who might not have had the best experience, and we're going to try to make that rectify those situations. But you're seeing how many people are saying that you're a 9 or 10. And in the United States, how many people really rate anything a 9 or 10? And especially
Not
in
a
the
lot.
space. Yeah.
Not a lot. I'm curious about the size of the survey, the number of respondents that were utilized for this.
We send out the survey to every residential connection on our network. And the ones
Wow.
we had email addresses for. Sometimes we might not have that information. So we had about 2,500 respondents on this survey. So when you're sending it out to about 30,000, we got just shy of 10% response rate on that.
And that's a phenomenal response, because anyone who's done surveys knows that if you get 1 or 2%, you're typically turning cartwheels. So, it is amazing when we talk about the steady increase in the Net Promoter Score. But looking at some of the individual numbers here, some high marks when we talk about the individual categories, and one in particular that I want to start with, and that is the relationship with Utopia and your city partners. And that was a staggering number, 95% that gave great marks to the relationship. Talk about that, if you would.
Yeah, I think we hear in this space all the time that we don't want city partnerships. We don't want the city in this space. And I live in a very conservative state of Utah. And when we see that these consumers and residents are saying, I'm so happy that my city got into this space, it just reminds me this is not a political discussion. This is not a political debate that we often hear in other arenas. People just want service, and they want service that is reliable at a cost-effective price point, and they want it to be reliable. And we're seeing more and more that people believe this is infrastructure, and they believe it's infrastructure that the city should provide. In what aspect? And we're an open access network, so Utopia just puts in the infrastructure and allows private sector ISPs to run on them.
And when we talk about that, with respect to the need for great connectivity, reliable bandwidth that's out there, I think the last 2.5 years certainly would spell out how, if it wasn't considered vital and essential before, then goodness knows it certainly has been in the last better part of 3 years now, with remote learning, remote work, telehealth, the expansion there, right down the line. And so, without question, most consumers are glad when they see their municipality looking out for them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's. I think the first Utopia cities who started this project, who started building in 2004, they took a lot of arrows, because we all know that Utopia didn't necessarily start off in the right direction. And to see in 2022 and 2020, I talked to a lot of those city leaders who took a lot of arrows and a lot of criticism for doing what they did. And now they're seeing that the residents are coming back to them and saying, I am so happy that you did this for our community. And it's the validation of taking all of that criticism over 20 years, when everybody's like, this is a private sector problem, you don't need to get in this space. And there's one of our city leaders, Alex Jensen, and he did an interview not too long ago for me. And he said, I used to hear of, why is this happening? Why are you in this space too? Now all he hears is, when can I get it? When is it coming to me? Why isn't it available now? And we're available in all of his cities. Just sometimes when a new development comes in, you're a little slower on some of those things, but we're getting there.
But isn't it great, though, to see the realization that it is a good thing, and that it has been a good thing, and will continue to be a good thing, an essential part of their existence. You are watching the Broadband Universe podcast, brought to you by Lit Communities. Light up your community. You deserve better internet. By Vetro Fiber Map, radically simpler fiber management. By OnTrack, proven leader in connectivity. And by Vitruvi, built faster, reduce costs, and improve quality. My guest today, Kim Mckinley, Deputy Director and Chief Marketing Officer with UTOPIA Fiber. And Kim, when we talk about the entire scorecard, if you will, I'm just absolutely amazed when I go down the list, and I'm curious from your perspective. We talked about the relationship and the number that you got for city partnerships, but some other high numbers. What would you consider to be the most important from your perspective?
I think what the most important number I'm seeing is how many people are subscribing to a gig or higher. In this space where I'm hearing all the time that consumers don't need this kind of speed, they don't need this kind of connectivity that's artificially inflated demand. But when you let the consumers really pick what they want, and our 3 speed choices from our ISPs are 250 meg, 1 gig, and 10 gig. You are seeing that the majority of the customers are picking 1 gig symmetrical service. And I think that is the number that kind of contradicts everything I hear on the national scene right now.
Well, and that's the beauty of what you just mentioned, the fact that offering is a symmetrical 1 gig offering, because you've got to have the upload and the download speeds, and that's so important. That is an interesting number, because when we talk about the need for families to utilize their connectivity, so many more ways to take a little piece of that bandwidth all around the house. And I know that is something that the team at UTOPIA is consistently and continually looking at, how to make sure that all those bases are covered. Talk about that, if you would.
Yeah, we're always looking at what connectivity, how many devices are in homes, what that means for this connectivity, how we can scale for the future. Right now, I was speaking the other day, and I said, I live by myself. I am not on the Utopia network, but I do have a 1 gig connection at my house. And people are like, why? You live by yourself? And I said, well, it's about all the the cameras, it's about the like streaming devices, it's about the light bulbs that you have no idea that are now connected to the internet and what that means. And the thing about Utopia Fiber, which the way that we've built it, which yet again, if you go back, I keep going back to 20 years ago that they built a future-proof network of an active e-network. So we offer 10 gig today, symmetrical, but we can offer 100 gig to the home very easily with a few changes of the equipment at the end at our huts or whatnot. So it's like we're building not the connectivity of just today, we're looking at 10 years ago. Because when we launched, Craig, the 1 gig product in 2014, everybody's like, nobody's going to need this kind of connectivity. Nobody's going to sign up for it. And now we're even seeing a huge uptake in 10 gig symmetrical service. And I'm still baffled of what are you doing with the 10 gig symmetrical service? I want to go in those people's houses and see what they're doing with it.
Well, you touched on something a moment ago, though, in your last remark, though, with respect to the growing dependence on streaming and how video on demand is becoming a major component in the viewing habits of people everywhere. And I think that it is just a matter of time till that becomes the ultimate way to dispense content out there. And so there will always be the need to have that so that you don't have any latency when you're watching whatever your favorite show is, because there's nothing worse than getting to a great scene and have it lock up. So that's where that extra bandwidth comes in. It
is absolutely true. And we don't have this in the survey, but this is an interesting little tidbit, is about 96% of our subscribers who are coming on the network do internet only. So I hear that TV is still out there as a big driver of like that people want head ends and these new ISPs. And I'm like, but do you? Because if you give them the choice and you educate them, most are not picking traditional TV options.
Well, the flexibility that you can get with the streaming options and the ability to satisfy whatever your viewing desires might be much more easily and I think more concisely, I think is part of that equation. But it will only, I think, from my humble opinion, I think it will only continue to demand having that dependable bandwidth. And it's interesting, though, that you're beginning to see an uptick on the 10 gig. And I'll be curious the next time we chat to find out how that has continued to evolve within the system.
Do you want to know why I think it's happening, Craig?
Why?
It's because a lot of people are working from home and their employers are paying for their internet connection.
I like it.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works. I don't know that. I don't have any data around that. That is very anecdotal. And you're seeing more consumer grade wireless routers for 10 gig with 10 gig ports, which you never saw before. Because back in the day when we had 10 gig connection, you're like, do you have a rack? Are you ready to do a live fiber handoff? And it's making it a little more plug and play than we've ever seen it before.
Well, and that's the perfect segue to one of the other categories in the survey, and that being price. And again, just like all the other categories, phenomenal results there.
No, people think that they want this big connection at a very cost-effective manner, and that's what we're offering. But it doesn't mean you have to be the low-cost leader in the marketplace. Price is important, but it's not the key driver of why people are making this decision. And I think that is very, very important, because that goes back to if the price was really the driver, they would pick the lower option.
Yeah, and I think one of the most impressive categories to me that I know has been a hallmark of the Utopia way of doing business, and that is the customer service, the fact that they can depend upon the people that are taking the calls to handle. And I love the quote that was used on the scorecard, and it was, when I have an issue, I can call someone and they actually know what they're doing, that they resolve your issues. That's all a consumer wants, and that's phenomenal.
No, it is. And I mean, my title is Chief Marketing Officer, but customer service is under me at Team Utopia. And I tell those guys every day, I said, first of all, you don't have a script. I don't want you to have a script, because then you stop listening to the customer and what they want. So talk to them. Talk to them and understand where they're coming from. And I say this all the time to them. They might be calling in about something you've heard 1,000 times before. But this is the first time that customer is calling in. This is the first time they're experiencing this, and put yourself in their shoes of what you want to feel and be like treated like. And it's just so amazing when you do these small little touches that I've seen. I've seen brownies show up for some of my customer service reps. I've seen Christmas presents because people want to be seen and they want to be valued in this space of having a voice. But Craig, I think this is the funniest thing I heard the other day from one of my customer service reps. And they said, well, I had an elderly person call the other day. And I said, okay. And they said, well, I stayed on the phone for about 5 extra minutes because they just seemed lonely and wanted to chat. And I was like, that's going the extra mile of saying, this is my customer and I see them and they seem a little lonely. And I think that makes a huge difference, and you keep a really good customer in that space, but you also keep this warm that we're in a community and we live here too. So it's not about the stats of, I took this many phone calls and I got off the phone call in 5 seconds and this is best for the company. Let's look at going back to what Utopia represents, the customer first attitude as we go out there.
What a concept, because that shows that your team cares about the consumer. The consumer obviously realizes that, and they feel the relationship. And it's all about the relationship. And many times, as you well know, the customer service team may be the only interaction with Utopia that they ever have. And that's how vital and vitally important that is. As we begin to wrap up our visit day, and there's so much that we could talk about, and that I guess means we have to circle back in a couple of months and talk again. I look forward to that. But as we begin to wrap up, the overall feel within the Utopia team of the data that you gleaned from this year's version of the customer satisfaction survey, and how that will make differences in going forward for the team.
I think what we glean is that we're doing a lot of things right. But they always joke internally at Team Utopia, some of my catchphrases is that good is not good enough. Let's do it better. And it's don't drink your own Kool-Aid. Understand that, yes, we're doing amazing things, but there's always room for improvement, and we can look at how we can pivot or do it differently as the market changes rapidly, as the industry changes rapidly, and look at all of those aspects of, yes, we're doing a lot of things right, but there's a lot of things that we also can improve on. And I think that's the driver inside of Team Utopia, is that there is a lot of things that we want to do more for this customer, more smart city applications, more transparency on some things that are happening. And that's unheard of. Transparency in a governmental agency, you never would have even thought about it. So it's about saying we're making mistakes sometimes, but we're here. So no, it's going to be an interesting 2023, but big things are going to be happening, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Well, kudos to you and the Utopia team for the results of this customer satisfaction survey. Phenomenal numbers. We'll only expect to see a continuation in that Net Promoter Score year after year. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
But thanks so much for visiting with me and sharing this great news. Again, all the best to you and Roger and the team there at Utopia. And it has been a blast. Can't wait till our next visit.
Thank you so much, Craig, and I look forward to it.
Absolutely. On behalf of Kim, I'm Craig. Thanks for letting us be a part of your day. We'll see you next time right here on the Broadband Universe. So long, everyone.